CrewTracks is simple yet powerful field management software for your construction company that allows your individual employees to just show up and get to work, while their crew leader or foreman keeps track of everything on a mobile device. All that information gets compiled into a beautiful daily report that goes to a supervisor for review, and then into the office for reporting, accounting, billing, and so on. But wait a minute. How does the foreman get all the information for that daily report? Well, from his own observations, of course, and his pictures and notes, but also he talks to his crew, right? They let him know, I'm back from lunch. Hey, can I see the plans? Or sometimes they might not tell him something that's come to mind. The foreman relies a lot on his crew to give him the information he needs to stay on track. And this could become a big job for the foreman, even with something like CrewTracks that makes it easier. The foreman can get pretty overwhelmed with all the information coming his way, and the information that doesn't come to him because someone just thought it doesn't exist. It's as good as gone. It doesn't help your company stay on track, doesn't help you stay profitable, doesn't help you look good. It just doesn't help you at all. Introducing individual data entry, a new feature from CrewTracks that will allow individuals to add information to the crew leader's report, as well as view assets that are usually only available to the foreman, like drawings and plans, so that everyone stays informed and collaborates together with these devices that are on your job site anyway, so you might as well put them to use. Once all that information comes together, the crew leader says it looks good and sends it on for the review process as usual. Essentially, what we've done is we've made your individual employees contributors to the data that makes your business win. And then that goes to the foreman for review, and then to the supervisor, and then to the admin. This new feature is awesome, and that's not even the best part. It's also easy, and if you already have CrewTracks, it's free, and it's optional. If you want to use CrewTracks the old way, you can. But let's dive in and take a look at this new feature. All right, buckle up, CrewTracks fans, because we have a lot to cover. First of all, great news, you already have this feature. It's already been activated in your CrewTracks account. But because your individual employees do not have username and password, you can't use it yet. So the first thing you have to do is go to your employees list, find an employee that you'd like to give the ability to add individual data to a foreman's report, and then just click edit. So let's go with Matt Damon, click on edit, and right here you want to give him a username and then change the password. Change password is also the way to create a new password if you don't have one yet. So click change password, and whether you've got one or not, that's the place to put it. And just a reminder, we're talking about the first employee type here. I've got employee, foreman, supervisor, and administrator. I believe I changed this one. The default is crew lead. Whatever yours are called, it's the first one on the list that in the past has never been able to log into the mobile app, and now they can if you give them a username and password. Okay, once everyone has a username and password, let's go to the organization settings real quick. I'm actually going to go over most of these features in the schedule setup, not the organization settings, but in the organization settings, you can set the first default for all this stuff. And just to make it easier to find these new settings, I'm going to hit Control F and search for individual. Anywhere you see the word individual on this page or on the crew setup page or the schedule setup page is where these new features show up. So first of all, allow individual employees to view future upcoming schedules. Again, we'll get to all the details later. I just want to show you where all these settings are in organization settings. Allow individual employees to clock themselves in or out. Individual employees can edit their clock in and out times. Got a bunch of stuff under jobs, time assignment setting down there. Some production settings, including one hiding in here. Track production by individual employee, although that existed before, but now you can have individuals add their own production instead of the individual production number being added by their crew leader. There's nothing under equipment. Yes for notes and photos, no for materials, no for miscellaneous info. Yes on job sign-off, yes on documents. So we've got individual data entry all over the place, just a couple features where it doesn't exist yet, including equipment and materials, but you guessed it, that will be coming in the future. All right, now all of these settings also exist in the crews area. If I were to create a new crew, I'll go add new crew, and we can see if I hit Control F again, we've got the word individual all over the place, but as you probably already know, this interface looks a lot like the schedule setup, so let's just do it all there. We'll go to schedules list, add a new schedule for today, and let's get to all of these settings. So first, I'll assign myself as the foreman, nothing new here. Give me a supervisor. Now let's add some employees, including Matt Damon, since I just gave him a username and password as an individual employee. And we'll add one more, Jordan Peele, sure. Okay, now let's make sure we have highlighted all the instances of the word individual. Here we go. And let's go through each of these. So first, just a quick scan and reminder, and I'll put the features up on the screen to help you remember. This is where you have individual data entry. Time clock, jobs, time assignment, production, notes and photos, documents, and job sign-off. So let's go through each of those one at a time. First of all, we've got time clock. This is the most requested reason why we added individual data entry, and if this doesn't seem new to you because you have individual employees clocking themselves in and out already, we know CrewTracks has been able to do that with a bit of a workaround, but now it's designed with the individual employee having their own login, and all that information will sync up with their crew leader's device, and all of the information for one crew will be in one place as opposed to having separate crews of one reporting to a supervisor. So as we go through here, let's turn on all of the individual features so I can show you how they work. So yes, allow individual employees to clock themselves in and out. Yes, individual employees can edit their own clock in and out times. This lunch punch feature is new as well, but not as new as the feature I'm telling you about. If you missed this, we have a blog post, go check it out. Okay, moving on to jobs. Yes, we'll let individual employees add jobs and job items. Yes, allow individual employees to see job details. And yes, let's allow individual employees to view totals, budgets for labor hours, production, equipment, and materials, which is really cool. Can't wait to show you that. All right, time assignment. Yes, let's allow individual employees to assign their own time. On production, let's track production by individual employee. By the way, this checkbox is not new, but did you see how this one down here changed? That's new. So let me uncheck it again. This checkbox did not exist before. So right now, we're not tracking by individual employee. We are tracking by the crew. But if we check this box, we can allow one employee to set the production value for the whole crew. This can be really useful if you have like a backup foreman. If a foreman is sick and you've got a guy who kind of fills in, then he won't have to actually log in as the foreman. As an individual employee, he can put in the production value for the whole crew. This is kind of a rare use case though. I think most people won't need this. So let's leave that unchecked. I'm going to check this, say yes, track production by individual employee. And we're going to allow individual employees to set their own production values. And also we have this option here. I'm going to leave this as require all employees to have a production amount set. And remember, our production page does have the option to just say no if you don't have any production, but you have to address it somehow. You can't just ignore that part of the report. You have to tell CrewTracks if you have production, and if you do, how much. Unless we switch it to this, then only the foreman will have to have a production amount set. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're doing the individual data entry. Let's really show it off. So require all employees to have a production amount set. All right, let's keep going. You know what? Since we're not doing equipment, let's just turn that off. One of the nice things about CrewTracks is you can just show your employees the things they need to see. Don't muck up their screen with a bunch of details they don't need. We're not using equipment on this report, so let's just turn it off. It won't even show up on the mobile devices as an option. Okay, notes and photos. Yes, we're going to allow individual employees to add and view notes and photos. Very cool. Everybody collaborating together. Materials, we'll turn that off, just like equipment. No features to show for today. And on documents, we will allow individual employees to access documents and create document submissions. This is important. Only for documents that have field access set to all employees. By default, you will have no documents set to all employees because that wasn't an option before. So even if you check this box, none of your individual employees are going to see any documents unless you go into the document settings and make a change. And we can actually do that right here just for this schedule. We can say the weekly expense report, let's let all employees see that. But that is just for this schedule. It's not a permanent setting for this document. So again, we'll have to go into the document settings if we want that to change overall and not just for this schedule for today. All right, continuing on. We've got miscellaneous info. Don't need that. We'll turn that off. Job sign off. Yes, allow individual employees to create job sign offs with their own data. When I pull up the mobile app, I'll show you what that looks like. And as always, you have the option to add a work description. Let's just say a meetup time and a gate code, something like that. All right, let's save the schedule. Now, if I pull up this schedule on a mobile device, either as a foreman or as an individual employee that has a login for that schedule, we'll see the information there, including that document. But before we do that, let's look at the document settings and change that document for the whole organization as opposed to just for that one day on that one schedule. So here's that weekly expenses report. It's set to foreman only. On the three dots over here, I'll just change the field access to all employees. Now, whenever I add that document to a schedule, it will always be set as all employees by default. Of course, you can change that back for a certain schedule and a certain day. Okay, we will come back to the office view in a minute, but let's pull up the mobile apps and see what this looks like for the crew leader and for the individual employee. All right, I've got the crew leader's iPad over here on the left and then the individual employee's phone over here on the right. Again, if I tap on the menu, we can see who's logged in. On this side, we've got the foreman, Brett Fairborn, and on the phone, we have an individual employee by the name of Matt Damon. So let's look at the foreman's device first. It's the same as usual. It's what you're used to. I'm only showing you this so that we can contrast it with what the individual employee sees. So as a foreman, I'll go work on schedule. It takes me to this time clock screen and I can start tapping people's names and clocking them in. As an individual employee, if I go to work on schedule, it just gives me a time clock for myself. So I'm going to go ahead and tap clock in and it will pull up my camera. I'll take a picture of my little guy here. That will act as my clock in photo. I'll say use photo. I am clocked in, the clock starts ticking, and once the foreman device syncs, you will see, there it is, I'm clocked in. And you can see also on the foreman's device, we have this nice little alert here. If I tap on that, we can see Matt Damon clocked in at 3:18 p.m. These three dots here give you a couple options. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that notification. All right, let's focus in on the individual device on the right again. We've got shift details on the top right. Let's hit that and change our clock in time since we did give Matt permission to do that. I'll just tap on this little blue pencil right here and I can roll that time back to, let's say, 9 a.m. Save that. And now my clock in time has been changed to 9 a.m. And in just a second, keep your eye on the foreman device over here. It will sync up. I think it syncs every minute or 30 seconds or something. Once it gets that data, you'll see that that clock in time has rolled back to 9 a.m. There it is. So already you can see how these individual devices from each employee will feed data right into the foreman's report, and then the foreman's got that submit button down there on the bottom right when it's all done. Okay, let's go back to Matt Damon's phone over here. We'll go back to the time clock, and because we edited the clock in time, it now says I've been on the clock for 6 hours and 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and start lunch. And you can see the lunch time starts accruing. And again, on the foreman's device, once that syncs across, it will show him Matt Damon is now on lunch. There it is. Now, it might be worth mentioning, if Matt goes to shift details here and tries to edit his break time, he can't do that. We've given him permission to edit his clock in and out time, but if we're going to change the break time, that still falls on the foreman. All right, let's go back to the time clock again. We've now had 1 minute of lunch. Let's go ahead and end the lunch. That was a pretty quick lunch. And you can see the clocked in time accumulates again. We've got the lunch set as 1 minute on both devices because it has synced across to the foreman's device. It really is nice how everything in CrewTracks just works. It's such a reliable product. Okay, so we're going to leave the iPad up on the screen just so we can follow along with what the foreman sees as data rolls in from individual employees. But we're going to be doing all the data entry from the phone over here on the right, starting with a clock out time. I'm going to hit clock out. Take a picture of my mini-me again. I'll tap use photo, and then it's going to ask me if I was injured, so I will say no, and then it's going to flip my phone sideways and mess up my screen. I'll sign that, hit accept, turn it back vertical, and resize that iPad for you. Okay, we're back in business. Ooh, and the iPad has not synced yet. There it goes, just as I said it. Matt Damon is now clocked out. All right, on the phone, the individual employee, let's open up the menu, and you can see we have all those options that we left on in the schedule settings. So we don't have equipment and materials. Remember, we turned those off, and miscellaneous info, but we have all of these places where individual data entry settings come into play. So let's look at jobs first of all. I never added a job to this schedule. Well, it's a good thing we've given the individual the ability to add a job. We'll just tap add job. We'll grab this state bank job, and let's just add brick and elevator. Add 2 items, and now we have the state bank job. If we tap on it, we can see all the information for that job, including the 2 items I just added right there, brick and elevator. Now this is going to look really familiar. This is what you're used to from the foreman device. In fact, let's go there on the foreman's iPad. Tap on state bank, which by the way was added by the individual employee, but it shows up now on the foreman's device because he's going to see anything that an individual adds to this schedule. So you can see same information on both devices. This information was only accessible to the foreman before. Now you have the option to make it accessible to the individual employee. You also have the option to not make it accessible. Remember, we checked the box to say, yes, make this accessible. And this page really is just an information center. I'll scroll through it on the foreman's device and on the individual's device. It's got shortcuts to different areas in the app so that you can look at notes and photos, documents, job sign-offs, wherever you want to jump to. But I don't want to get ahead of us, so let's open up the menu on the top left on the individual device, and let's just go to the next item, which is time assignment. And on the foreman's device, we will tap the same item just to keep up. And actually, let's throw a slight little curveball at Matt Damon here. Let's say I've been watching him as the foreman, and I noticed that he switched from brick to elevator about an hour and a half ago. So as the foreman, I'm going to tap on add time, and I know he spent about 5 hours on this item. We'll save that, and I'm doing that just to show you this information syncs in both directions. It doesn't matter if the foreman inputs the data or if the individual employee inputs the data. So it could be when Matt opens up the time assignment page, he sees that some of it's already done for him. That's fine. The foreman can still fill stuff out for his crew members. But now that Matt has clocked out, he can say the rest of my time was on elevator, save. Now all his time is assigned. And of course, that's going to sync over to the foreman's device in just a second here. There it is. Okay, let's move on to production. Again, we're going to open the menu on the top left on the phone, tap on the next menu item, which is production, and we'll follow along on the foreman's device. Now, as an individual employee, if I tap on brick, I'm only going to see the option to input my own production. As the foreman, if I tap on brick, I can see production for everybody. Okay, so over here on Matt's device, let's say we did 100 brick. And with our awesome production features, we can see we're on pace for the whole job, but I was just a little slow on the expected efficiency today. And as always, let's watch that sync over to the foreman's device. Man, that's beautiful. There it is. Matt Damon's production shows up. We can see a little exclamation mark that says he was a little bit slow today, but we are on pace overall on the job. We're in pretty good shape. Now, quick little side note, in order for the foreman to submit his daily report, he's going to need production for each person in here. So I'm logged in as the foreman right here. So I'm going to put that in for myself. Let's just put a 0. And then we might be waiting for Jordan's data to come in from his individual data entry, or if he's not doing that, or if he just forgot, I can put it in for him. We'll just make it easy, give him a 0 as well. We're not going to log time or anything for anyone else on this schedule today. All right, now let's hit select job to get one more item here we need to set production for. On the elevator item, let's say we got 15 CMU done. I'll tap on that, type 15. And that looks just about perfect. This job is on pace now as well. And of course, you can see that it's synced over to the foreman's device. If I tap on that, we can see Matt Damon's information is in, but again, we don't have anything from Brett or from Jordan yet. So I'll just put 0s on there to satisfy the requirement that we input something. We have to address this item. Okay, moving right along. Opening up the menu again on the phone on the top left. And let's go to notes and photos. And as always, let's follow along on the foreman's device. Now, you may have heard me say before, the notes and photos section of CrewTracks is the easiest and most intuitive and possibly the most valuable part of CrewTracks. It is so easy to use. You can see on the left side, it says Brett Fairborn. On the right, it says Matt Damon, because on the left, I'm signed in as the foreman. On the right, I'm signed in as the individual employee. So let's go ahead and have Matt add a picture. So I'll just tap on Take Photo, get a picture of my blinds here. Tap Use Photo, and that will show up in the Notes and Photos section. Of course, I can add a caption. This is a picture of my blinds. And CrewTracks is syncing too quickly for me to even talk about it. You can see that photo is already over on the foreman's device. And if we wait just a second, the note will show up as well. There it is. So as the foreman, I can take a photo as well. Let me pick up my iPad here. I'll tap Take Photo, get a picture of my little desk plant. I'll say Use Photo, and we'll add a note to that one as well. Here is a picture of my plant. It does not have a name, period. Should we name it? Question mark. Okay, that's good to go. Now, something that's pretty cool about this feature is the foreman might add notes and photos that we don't want individual crew members to see, right? So when the foreman adds a photo and notes, it doesn't show up on the individual employee's device. But as individuals add notes and photos, they do show up on the foreman's device, so he can see data coming in from all over the project. So this is a great way for the foreman to collect data from his crew safely so that they can share it with him and everyone else isn't going to see it. So they can brag about their own work or point out problems. All right, carrying on, let's go to documents, and again, we'll follow along on the foreman's device. All right, now we've got some very detailed training for the documents section of our app elsewhere, so I'm just gonna go over this really briefly. If you need more detailed information, look for our training on the documents section of CrewTracks. But you can see I've pulled up the office view in the background here. Let me switch to that. So again, don't let me lose you. I just put away my mobile devices. Now I am back in the office editing this schedule. I just wanna show you what happens if we have a required document. So I'm gonna go down to the documents section, and let's make that weekly expense report required. And then we'll save that. Okay, now let's go back to the mobile devices out on the job site. Okay, first on the individual employee device, let's navigate back to the documents. And you can see the organization folder is red now because there's a required document in there. Let's do the same thing on the foreman device, and there it is. So open up that folder on both devices. Now, for finishing up this daily report, the responsibility lies on the foreman, right? As an individual employee, if I just ignored this, if I open up the menu, you can see there's no submit option. It's just here for me to fill in information while that schedule is available to me. If the foreman hits submit, it's going to disappear from the individual employee's device because the foreman's saying, I'm done. Don't send any more data on this schedule. But right now, as the foreman, if I hit submit, it's going to say, nope, we need to fill out the weekly expenses report for both Brett Fairborn and Matt Damon because it's accessible to everybody and it's required. So we need something from everybody on this document. Fortunately, as the foreman, I can take care of that. I can just tap on create next to Matt Damon, even though that's not me, and I can fill it out for him. However, if we're requiring this for each employee, you're going to want to train your guys to not leave it to the foreman to take care of that for them and clean up their mess. Each individual can tap on the document, open it up, and fill it out. All right, now on this document, I don't have any required fields, so any edit will satisfy the requirement of having some data in that document. So I'll just put the date in there. All right, we'll tap done, save and close, and now that I have made an edit, let's just save the default name. It doesn't show up as red anymore. The requirement is satisfied with the individual employee, but on the foreman's device, you can see it's still red because even though we have data from Matt, I haven't filled it out myself as the foreman. Oh, there it just synced across. We can see Matt's edit, but we still have to open the document and make our own edit to fulfill the requirement for the foreman. And of course, CrewTracks gives the foreman the option. Did you mean to open Matt's edit and see what he did, or do you want to create your own information? So I can look at Matt's edit and see all he did was write the date in there. Thanks a lot, buddy. Or I can close that and I can open the document again, tap Create New Edit, and fill it out for myself. Now that required document has been filled out by both people who have data on this schedule. Quick reminder, as the foreman, I can look at, like, for example, the time assignment screen. Jordan is also on this schedule, but there's no data at all on the schedule for him, whereas Brett put in a note and a photo, remember? So once someone has added data to a schedule, if there's a required document, they also have to do the document because it's required. But because there's no data on this schedule for Jordan, we're not requiring the document from him either. Of course, we could remove Jordan from this schedule entirely, but just to make your life easier, CrewTracks is not going to require a document from each individual, even if it is a required document that everyone has access to, unless there's some data on the schedule for that person, like they clocked in or they added a note and photo or something. If they've shown up somehow, then yes, we will require that document from them. Okay, again, we have very detailed training on our documents section, so if you need to know more about that, consult that training. Okay, let's get the foreman back over to the documents section of the app, just like Matt is at over here. And Matt, let's go back to the same view. Okay, now we're on the same page again. All right, we are down to our last item. Let's open up the menu one more time, go to Job Sign Off, and I'll follow along on the foreman's device. Now, even though these screens look the same on both sides, for the individual employee, if I tap No Generated Reports, it will allow me to start generating a report just with my own information, including my notes and photos. Now, all of this functionality works like you would expect and like you're used to from the foreman's device, but it is only my data as an individual employee. Whereas on the foreman's device, if I generate a report here, it's going to have all of the notes and photos, all of the data from the whole crew. In fact, just to make that super clear, let's go ahead and go back to production. Let's just add 1 brick to my production. Okay, so now the crew has 101 brick. If I go to the job sign off and generate a report, we can see the amount completed on the foreman's device says 101. On the individual's device, it says 100. So again, the foreman has the data from the entire crew. The individual just has their own data and their own notes and photos. Now, as an individual employee, if I open up the menu again, we can go back and review any part of this report that's just my individual data. So notes and photos, there's my note and my photo. If I go to time assignment, we can see how much time I assigned each item. And again, as the foreman, we have the same information, but it's for the entire crew. Everyone's notes and photos, everyone's time assignment, etc. All right, something really cool about this feature is the individual employee just puts in data anytime, whenever they want, and then that final stamp of approval still sits with the foreman. It's up to the foreman to hit this submit button and say, we're all done, we're good to go. If the employee just clocks in, clocks out, adds a note and a photo, and then forgets, that's fine. Any data we get from the individual is a bonus. It's great, thank you. So as the foreman, let's say we are done. We'll tap on submit. Oh, and I have a setting on this job. It's requiring confirmation or an update of the job or item status. I'm gonna leave them all as open, hit confirm. Are you sure you want to submit? Yes, submit. Success. And now when the individual device syncs up, look at that, schedule locked. The schedule you had open was locked. It was submitted by the foreman. Foreman gave it his stamp of approval and said, I'm done, sending it to the supervisor for review. When the supervisor's done reviewing it, goes to the office. The same organized workflow you're used to with CrewTracks will function as normal, but this time with data that has been contributed to the crew's report from individual employees. Whew, I told you we had a lot to cover. Just as a quick review, if you go to a schedule setup screen, hit Control F and type individual, that's a really easy way to just run through where all these new features show up. And if you need to review any one of them, remember we had those timestamps at the beginning of the video. I'll show you again right now in case you want to scroll back to a certain section. And if you need help, of course, your account manager is waiting to help you, or you can give us a call or send an email, or right here on our website, there's an online chat option as well. Lots of ways to get help. We help and innovate for the people who build and maintain our world. That's you. Thank you for making CrewTracks part of the crucial work that you do.